All right, everyone. Welcome back to another Limitless Q&A series. And today we have with us Miss Keisha D. Hunter.
Yes.
I'll let her introduce herself, but she is absolutely amazing. I've worked with her over the last decade now,
Yes.
various
Yep.
capacities, on shows, doing things in
Yep.
the community, and she truly is amazing, and just a blessing to so many people's lives. And so I'm so excited to have her speak with us today about how to develop and implement influencer marketing strategies and social media strategies to grow and develop our personal and professional brands and businesses. And just to go over a few housekeeping things, remember, if you've not joined the Limitless community, please do so. That's where we drop a lot of things at before we make them public. There's opportunities to connect, to network,
Mhm.
to receive specials on deals and other consulting offers that some of our partners are providing, and it's just a great community to be a part of. I
Yes.
know a lot of people have been asking about when are we doing the next in-person conference. It is coming up very, very soon, and I'm really excited to share those details soon. If you were at the last conference, it was at the Tower Club Dallas in 2019, right before the pandemic, before the shutdown.
Hmm.
And so we're really excited about how we have developed and built out that program. So that's coming soon. We also have some book collaborations coming up as well. And so you'll have the opportunity to be a published author if you've not been able to do that yet, and learn about the that business model and ways that you can kind of maybe make that an extension of what it is that you're doing, or make that a family project. So we'll talk more about that. But as always with these limitless Q&A series, if we have time or if you drop questions, we will take the time at the end of the presentation to go over all of to address those questions and to answer any concerns that you may have. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to be quiet, and I am going to kick it off to Keisha.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm super excited to be a part of this Limitless series. And I'm excited about the topic that we're talking about. So, just very quickly, a little bit about myself. I've had a small marketing boutique for 12 or 13 years now. And I had the opportunity at the beginning of that. This is when social media was really just starting to jump off and kick off, particularly for businesses. So it's always been a passion of mine. I love people. My degree is in marketing, and marketing is all about people. It's about learning people and determining who your audience is so that you can provide them with the services that they're looking for, whether it be to make their life convenient, to help them build their business, whatever the case may be, whatever it is that you sell. So I'm super excited to talk about this particularly today, influencer marketing, because it is literally all the rage. This is what people are talking about. This is what people are doing. This is a major income stream and really a way of life for millions of people. 50 million to be exact. I'll share some more numbers with you throughout the presentation. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and dive in and get started. Hopefully, this is a new platform for us to use. So hopefully, I will be able to do this correctly. Let me see how to share my screen with you. And Rachel, I'm not sure if I had the capability before. Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. And here we go. And let's get this thing started. Well, we might want to start on the first page. Okay, so influencer marketing. So the big question when it comes to influencer marketing, and I apologize, I can't see you guys and do this at the same time. So hopefully there's nothing in my teeth. But anywho, so influencer marketing, the question that really people have to ask themselves, business owners and entrepreneurs particularly, when it comes to influencer marketing, there are two main questions to ask yourself. Should I hire an influencer to market my product, or should I be the brand and become an influencer so that I can sell any product or service? So that is the main question that you want to ask yourself. So the first thing, just in case people aren't completely familiar with the term influencer marketing, which has become popular probably over the last 5 or so years. Basically, influencer marketing, it's a mixture of old school and new school marketing tools. So it takes the idea of celebrity endorsements, which used to be just your models, TV and film actors, professional athletes, etc. And it places it into a new age content driven marketing campaign. So in influencer marketing, the results of a campaign are created by collaborations between brands and influencers. So some of which wouldn't necessarily consider themselves to be, famous or celebrities offline. So some celebrities are influencers, but not all influencers are necessarily celebrities as far as in the way that we used to think a celebrity is. Influencer Marketing Hub, which I gathered quite a lot of information from that channel, and I completely recommend going to that yourself to do some more studying as you get ready to dive in. But Influencer Marketing Hub, they described an influencer as the power to affect the purchasing decision of others because of his or her authority, knowledge, position, or relationship with his or her audience. Also, a following in a distinct niche with whom he or she actively engages. So the size of the following depends on the size of his or her topic of the niche. So uh, basically an influencer, I don't want people to think that necessarily you have to have a huge following in order to be an influencer in your particular industry, because that's absolutely not true. Not every person who has a huge impact and influence on their industry are on TikTok. They're not all on Instagram. They're not on Facebook, engaging often. So that is not necessarily the case. However, in the terms of influencer marketing, the numbers is what is most important. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Okay. So, first, influencer marketing. This industry, just a little background there, the influencer marketing industry is set to grow to approximately 16.4 billion. That's with a B. So 16.4 billion in 2022. So some of this information was probably gathered, 2020, 2021. We're in the midst of 2022. And I feel like all of us either we're following someone who is an influence to us. Or, we're on TikTok and we see these people with these massive followings who we think are funny and we check back in with them. This is what influencer marketing is all about. So I think all of us know for sure that this is huge. Influencer marketing focused platforms raised more than 800 million in funding in 2021 alone, which is an indication of the significant growth of the industry. The global number of influencer marketing related service offerings grew by 26% in 2021 alone. So, right now, and I'm sure this number has likely gotten larger, there are 18,900 firms offering or specializing, particularly in influencer marketing, which is pretty cool. So one of the things that when you're dealing with social media that we always like to kind of talk about is fraud, of course. The cool thing is that Instagram influencer fraud has actually declined over the last few years, but still 49% of Instagram influencer accounts were impacted by fraud. And what that means is that, people who have these large followings and large audiences, they are the target, unfortunately, of hackers. And I'm sure, hopefully Rachel or other people in your network will, likely have some tips and tools available for you when it comes to fraud and how to avoid it. I still feel like people get duped so often. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this day and age, but it still happens for sure. The hackers are getting smarter. So, couple of more numbers. More than 75% of brand marketers intend to dedicate a budget to influencer marketing in 2022. So, if you aren't an influencer yourself, you might want to do the same. Doesn't mean that you have to set aside a lot of money, depending on where you are in your business, whether you're small, medium size, etc. business, but it would be wise for you to set aside some of your marketing dollars to go specifically towards influencer marketing. 54% of the firms working with influencers operate e-commerce stores. I mean, at the end of the day, in 2022, if you aren't selling your product online, your product or service, figuring out a way to package it so that you can sell it online, what is you doing? Seriously. Like, you know what I'm saying? We are in the information age. If you are not on this boat in some form or fashion, as far as being able to package and sell your product or service online, you are missing the boat. And we don't want you to do that. So, a few more numbers here. Let's talk about social commerce. Of course, most of us are familiar with the term e commerce. This is going to be a very similar thought. The difference is with social commerce, it is particularly kind of segmented to talk about the impact that people who have large followings have on the bottom line, on your sales. So, just as an example, the value of social commerce sales in 2022 is estimated to be 958 billion. And I know I keep throwing out these big numbers when it comes to money, and we are likely heading into the midst of a recession and things like this. Guess what? As we have seen, when everything shut down during the pandemic and some of the other hard times that we've experienced, that does not mean that people are not going to buy what you have to sell online. You just have to find the people who are able to afford it at that time. These numbers are going to rise, regardless of the recession that's happening, things of that nature. These numbers are going to continue to increase. It's just about finding the people where they are who want the product and service that you're selling. So, an example, in just one day, okay, one day in October of 2021, two of China's top live streamers. Now I'm gonna jack these names up. I apologize in advance. Li Jiaqi and Vaya, something like that. So these two of China's top live streamers sold 3 billion worth of goods. 3 billion worth of goods in just one day. That's roughly three times Amazon's average daily sales. Wild. Okay. By 2025, social commerce is expected to account for 17% of all e commerce spending. Real quickly, the creator economy. So, creator meaning content creators. So, the creator economy market size is estimated to reach 104 billion in 2022. So, right now, like I said earlier, more than 50 million people globally consider themselves content creators. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I'm going to hop into a PDF, and I'm not going to go through this piece by piece. I just want to give you guys a little bit of an idea of some stats, my apologies, by app. So we're talking Instagram, Instagram stories, TikTok, YouTube. Now keep in mind, I'm not even touching today. And I'll make sure that I get with Rachel about sharing where you can find some of this information on your own to really dive in. But we're not even right here mentioning Facebook. We're not even mentioning blogging, which accounts for surprisingly more than you think. A lot of people do still actually visit and read blogs. So we're not even talking about those things today, which I do still recommend. But let's just hop into this PDF real quickly. Just a few more stats to share with you. Okay, so Instagram. Some of what I'm really pulling out of this that I think is very impressive, and this particular information that I got actually came from a company that specializes, they're called Maverick, which I've done some research on several of the companies out there who are basically a hub that provide the service where they connect influencers with brands and vice versa, brands with influencers. So this is just one of those companies that had some really great information to share. So on Instagram, of course, the supported formats, of course, you got your photos, videos, stories, highlights, your IGTV, your reels. There are a lot of opportunities to engage in paid advertising. through some of those same pieces, including shopping directly from Instagram, which I think is fantastic. And just this little note: 130 million people use product tags via Instagram shopping every month, and I'm sure that number has likely risen. Um, so the engagement rate. Now, this is going to vary, of course, depending on how many followers a person has, but just particularly for Maverick brand influencers or influencers, 7.6 to 14% engagement rates, and 1.7 to 3.2% average engagement rate, which is pretty awesome. So these are just some of the things that I want to point out as far as Instagram is concerned. And this is what I want you to think about as a business when you are talking about hiring someone to be an influencer for your brand. You want to think about who your audience is. You know, based on the product you're selling, who is your target audience? What age range are they in? What gender, maybe should you target more than the other? What are their demographics and interests? So, just as an example, on Instagram, the biggest consumers there are the Gen Z and millennials, women and men 18 to 34 years old. And the biggest topics as far as verticals: fashion, beauty, travel, food, which of course I'm sure if you frequent that application, this comes as no surprise to you. Influencer personas, males and females 18 to 34 years old, are extremely popular on this app. So these are the things that you want to really think about. The user demographics: 49% female, 50% male, and which, to me, if I were to guess, I would think that it would be the other way around as far as who's on that app more. Very interesting, considering that men, tend to, oh, we know how they act. I'm not going to go there, but but they're on that app, looking at the pictures, looking at the reels, and also making purchases. So we have to keep that in mind. So just a few more. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these piece by piece. They actually segmented out Instagram stories because that is a whole nother beast. And of course, it really, Instagram stories, I will say this and move on from there. Instagram stories actually gives you a more opportunities to actually engage with your audience. So this is something to keep in mind as a brand, but also as a brand that is looking to hire an influencer, depending on what it is that you're selling. You want to really do your research and see whether or not that influencer is using the tools and doing the things that is going to be beneficial for your business. All right. So let me just a couple more here. TikTok. So to be honest with you, I am a late comer, not in studying and understanding the power of this particular application, but I am a late bloomer when it comes to the actual use of it. Because even though I get to help influencers or branders, marketers, business owners to get acclimated to these apps and things of that nature, I have definitely been one of those people that's like, oh my God, not another app. you know, there are so many tools out there that we can use. But if you are looking to either be an influencer or tap into influencer marketing, TikTok is definitely one of the places that I highly recommend researching to see who it is that you'd like to hire to represent or talk about your brand to their audience. Okay. So TikTok is huge. I'm not going to go into the details of that. And like I say, I'll definitely share this information. Actually, I take that back. One thing that I do want to point out now, this again is particular to the Maverick influencers who use TikTok. So average incentive per influencer, 674 to $1,252. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to point that out to you is because when you are deciding on an influencer, and let me actually just pop out of this. I'm going to pop out of this and hop back to our slideshow. When you're thinking about hiring an influencer, there are a couple of things that you definitely want to keep in mind. Um, especially when it comes to how you are going to pay that influencer. There are a couple of different ways. So the main things to consider is, who is your target audience? Based on the product you're selling, the age range, gender, demographics, etc. What social app does your target audience most often frequent? Does the influencer, have a sizable following there? So highly recommend just do your research. It could be as simple as Googling, top influencers in XYZ industry, whatever your industry may be. You want to make sure that the influencer you choose meets your standards when it comes to the quality of their content. This is extremely important because, of course, again, there are 50 million people out there calling themselves content creators or considering themselves that, but that does not mean that one shoe fits all. It does not mean that the quality or the standards that you're looking for is going to come with certain types of influencers. So you want to just be particular about who it is that you're choosing. One of the things that's important for influencers is making sure that you determine what your actual objective is. So, just as an example, perhaps you are a marketer who just wants quality content for your own page. You're not necessarily looking to get into these high dollar influencers where you are having to pay them to actually talk about your product or share that product with their audience. So maybe you just want that influencer to create some really high quality content, whether it be video or photography, so that you can use it on your page and have more or better content there. So you just need to determine what is your objective, and make sure you're sharing that with the influencers that you're reaching out to. One of the things that I saw that has been an issue with marketers who actually reach out directly to influencers, or some of the things that I've seen them complain about, if you will, is just branders not necessarily communicating effectively. So, not sharing exactly what their goals are, not providing tools for that influencer. For instance, every influencer that you look to hire, you should actually put together what we call a campaign brief. So that's letting them know what your goals are, how much you're willing to pay, whether it be in product or in cash, monetarily, um, what you're looking for as far as a timeline is concerned. So we understand that most marketing campaigns or typical campaigns, they are going to run from 4 to 6 weeks from start to finish. So this is from you reaching out to that influencer and locking in the deal to them actually producing the product, whether it be photography or video content, whatever the case may be. So make sure that you are keeping all of these things in mind when you are communicating to potential influencers. And like I say, the biggest thing, of course, because we're all, life within business is about the money to a degree. So we always want to make sure that you are looking at a budget and just being fair. Again, do your research. There are plenty of resources out there to try to determine what is a fair rate to even offer so that you're not offending people. Okay. All right. Let's hop on to the next slide. Okay, so we talked about different levels of influencers, and I understand that you guys cannot read that tiny type on this graphic, so I am going to share it with you. So, a couple of different levels when it comes to influencers and determining who you should partner with. So, at the top there, we have a mega influencer. So, mega influencers are those who earn their living some other way. So, actors, musicians, athletes, the celebrities that we talked about before. So, these are people who have massive audiences. And we consider them mega influencers because they influence and can talk about a product and have an impact on a bottom line, but they don't necessarily make their living being an influencer. Unless, I think the caveat to that is if you want to count sponsorships, which I kind of consider these things to actually be the same thing, but I digress. So for the purpose of this presentation, we will call mega influencers people who make their living some other way, who have massive followings and still do influence bottom lines. Under that would be the macro influencer, which are individuals who earn their living as a content creator. So we're talking about your YouTubers, your TikTokers, your Instagrammers, your bloggers, your journalists. So these are people who make a living um, by partnering with brands to share the product or service that that brand is aiming to push or to gain more awareness for. Below that would be micro influencers. So these are individuals who have a side hustle creating content, and usually they're pushing to become a macro influencer. Advocates are individuals who don't produce content often, but they will for brands that they're passionate about. So these are people who, maybe they have a decent following, and they just support you. So they are going to share. Referrers. These are individuals who share if the incentive is right, but they're going to put in minimal effort. So when we're talking about referrers, just think, simple copy and paste type action. Okay. And then finally, loyalists. These are individuals who love your brand. They're going to purchase regularly. You drop something, they're getting it. They're the first ones to purchase, but they will rarely, if ever, share. So I think the point of this is to get to a point where you are building loyalists, people who are going to buy your products, but the way that you are reaching those loyalists, be open minded about how you're going to reach them. And influencer marketing is definitely one of those modes. Okay. My best advice. Okay. Because this is so much and can be so overwhelming, unless marketing is your forte, which for a lot of people who have brands and products and services that they sell, they don't have time to do all this marketing stuff. So, my best advice is to hire a company that connects brands with influencers to do the hard work for you. Now, I will say this, there is not a particular company that I recommend, as I have not personally worked with some of the ones that I've had the opportunity to study and gather and glean information and tools and tips from. My favorite so far, which I talked about a little earlier, that I have researched is Maverick. And basically, again, it's just a company that partners brands with influencers. So they have a huge network of influencers that they can tap into. They have a lot of tools that would take you a ton of time to use, whether it be surveys and the research for particular influencers to determine which ones would work best for your product or service. A lot of this stuff is done for you via these companies. So I recommend, if you're going to spend the money, if you have the budget to do it, to research these companies that actually provide influencer marketing services. It's a whole nother job. So this is what I recommend. Make sure you read the reviews, as in all things, read the reviews. Okay. So on the flip side, and this is I'm nearing the end of the presentation. On the flip side, if you are a business owner or entrepreneur and you have decided, rather than hiring other influencers to raise brand awareness for you, perhaps you are such an expert in your field that you would like to be an influencer yourself. How fun! Who doesn't want to travel and create content and speak to and impact massive amounts of people and get paid to do it? Who wouldn't want to do that? I definitely do. I'm one of those people. Uh, so, the top 5 tips to begin your influencer journey. Number one, think about what is your story and what topic will you use to share your story. And I'm going to give you a bit of a breakdown on that. So just as an example, let's just take Instagram. The top 5 categories for Instagram influencers are lifestyle, beauty, music, photography, and family. These are the top 5 topics, if you will, for influencers on Instagram. And the reason why I wanted to point that out to you, and one of the things that I found that really stood out to me in those top 5 topics, is that some of them are very personal, and that is the key. You, as an influencer, you have to decide not only what your story is, but how much. of your story you're willing to share? How much are you willing to let people in? Quick example of that. Let's just take Cardi B. Let's take Cardi B as an example. So, most of you know, she literally started to gain her following from just being her authentic self. And of course, everybody has their opinions about her and her personality, things of that nature. That is not the topic here today. Today, what the key is that because she was willing to put herself out there, say what was on her mind and on her heart consistently, talk to her audience, engage with her audience, she was able to catapult her career from just being an influencer, just sharing bits and pieces of her life, to then being on a reality show, to now being Grammy Award winning artist and actress and all the things that she does. So this is an example. Let's talk. We could even talk about, which I didn't pull her up, but let's talk about Tabitha Brown. She says all the time, and actually, you know what? Before I talk about her, let's because this she kind of rolls into a different piece of this the five tips. So number two, let's hop to number two. Determine what social media app your potential audience uses the most, and learn how you can utilize the tools within that app to engage your potential audience. So I'm going to say this, some of us, you know, can stick our nose up in the air when it comes to YouTube learning or online learning. Look here. There are so many people who have catapulted themselves and their careers and their income into the stratosphere by being diligent, hopping onto YouTube or within the apps. A lot of them have help areas that give you so many tips and tools. The key is to take the time to learn what application makes most sense for you to use, and then to use those tools. Don't be afraid to get down and dirty and ugly with it. Everybody had to
Mhm.
start from somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
The next thing I'll say, tip number three, be patient. Okay. This is the name of the game. Um, being patient. Influencer marketing, very similarly to social media marketing, content marketing, isn't usually about directly selling your products. It's a slow and steady game. It's about demonstrating your authority, credibility, and thought leadership within your industry. So it's about becoming synonymous with whatever it is that you offer. For instance, like when people say, I'm going to Xerox a document instead of photocopying it, or I'm going to hoover the floor rather than vacuuming it, or I'm going to drink a Coke, rather than have a soda. You know what I'm saying? So you want to become synonymous with what it is that you sell as a person. Tip number four, make sure your content is quality, whether it be the text, whether it be the visuals, whether it be the audio, whether it be the editing. This is what I recommend, and again, not everyone is an expert in those areas. There are plenty of tools that you can get on your mobile phone to help you through that. Um, Nine times out of ten, somebody out there put out an Instagram post or a Facebook post, to check the temperature and the waters to see who out there specializes in content creation. It does not hurt, if you have the funds to do so, to hire someone to help you develop a content marketing strategy. And then number five rolls into this. Consistency is key. And this is where I want to talk a little bit about Tabitha. She always says, I started out in my kitchen with my phone and one of these little cheap lights to make sure the lighting was decent. That is how she began. And the key
Yep.
to her success was to remain consistent. Even if those first few videos she did didn't look all that great, okay, it got better over time because she was learning. The key is to start, and to be consistent. And that is what I want to share with you all. Think about this. Now, I'm going to probably pronounce his name wrong. I've never really known. I think it's Kabi or Kabi. lame. This he's one of the, I think he's in the top 10 as far as his influence in Instagram and following. 78.7 million followers. I have never heard this man's voice. I've never heard his voice. Yeah. Am I the, okay. I know I'm not the only one.
You're
And
right.
believe me, and I watch him all the time. I've never heard this man's voice. He has literally, by engaging with his audience, being his quirky, funny self, making the faces that he makes, okay, he has literally built a massive following and is making a hell of a living, literally, by making faces and gestures. Am I lying? It's very impressive. And the reason why I bring him up is to say this: get out of your box. Think about who you are as a person, and do not be afraid to share that with people. You don't know what's going to hit. You don't know what is going to catapult you as an influencer into this industry. And that is pretty much it. That is what I have to share with you all. Let me stop sharing my screen. How do I do that?
How can people connect with you
Yes.
if they
Okay.
want additional services or consultation? Can we talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So again, my name is Keisha Hunter. You can find me online. Most of my social media is under Mocha Soulfly, and that's MOKAHSOULFLY. I'm actually revamping my website right now, but you can still go to KeishaDHunter.com and take a little look at my portfolio and some of the brands that I have had the opportunity to work with. Some of them are not on there. It's been hadn't been updated in a while, but that's neither here nor there. I myself, I do want to challenge you, anybody who is thinking about becoming an influencer, doesn't matter what your industry or niche is, I am going to engage on a challenge myself. To take advantage of some of the things that I have learned in the last couple of years running a brand called Galaxy 9 that is has been extremely successful in event production and marketing. And so I'm going to take some of the things that I've learned in helping to run that company actually for the last 5 years, but also some of the things that I've learned and studied when it comes to influencer marketing. And I'm going to put these things in action myself. So I want to put out a challenge to anyone who is watching this. Get in contact with me. Let me take a look at my calendar here. Get in contact with me prior to, or I would say no later than Monday, July 25th. So send me an email, khunter@busybuilder.com. That's my former name, but I still use that email. So khunter@busybuilder.com, and that's BIZY builder.com. So send me an email if you want to take part in this challenge. And basically, what this will be, I'm not going to do anything for you. Okay. What I am going to do though is share mounds of information. I'm going to share information with you about what I'm learning along my journey, and we're going to hold each other accountable when it comes to creating content and posting content. So I will share some of the things that I've shared with clients over the years when it comes to social media calendars and how to stay on top of regular posting and things of that nature. So definitely things that I normally would not share outside of my clientele. I'll be sharing those things. So again, that's khunter@busybuilder.com. If you want to take part in this challenge with me, I'm going to accept about 5 or 6 of you guys. We're going to have a blast. We're going to create some content. We're going to build our followings, and we are going to see how we can make it bubble in 2022 and beyond. So thank you again, Rachel, for having me. I have absolutely enjoyed sharing this information and gathering this information and using some of the tips that I, of course, plan on putting into even more action for myself outside of clients. So this should be really fun. Like I say, join me. It's going to be a blast. Follow me online. Again, it's Keisha D. Hunter at Mocha Soulfly, MOKAHSOULFLY, and I look forward to connecting with you all further.
Thank you so much. Yes, and thank you all for tuning in. And just remember, you are absolutely limitless. So be fearless, be fabulous, and make sure that you are having fun in the process. I will, again, make sure that I repost all of Keisha's information. I've also included my calendar link in case you want to take advantage of the complimentary consultations that I'm doing at the moment. I will be sharing these things in the group, but we will see you next time. So be on the lookout for who's coming up next. I believe we're doing pleasure or personal development with Goody Hunter in about a week or so. So
Woo!
that should be fun. All righty. All righty. All right, everyone. But we'll check you later. See you next time.
Thanks. Bye bye.